Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite games on this slate in particular, just because of all the versatility this game offers. You can build Jaguars passing stacks with Josh Jacobs. You can build Raiders passing stacks with Travis Etienne. Like, there's a lot of optionality here, which makes it very interesting. Also, we're coming off of the spot where the Raiders completely just no-showed last week. Like, they were literally the worst offense in the NFL last week, and they got
Yeah.
shut out for the first time since 2014. Everybody was awful. Devontae Adams played with the flu. Just he only had five. He set career lows, across the board. I mean, it was the first time he had one or fewer catches in a game since 2015, and he has his career low in yardage in a full game played. He obviously they acknowledged he had the flu last week. He was sick. He played through it. Not quite the Michael Jordan flu game by any means, And then it's a default, like everything structurally just fell apart for the Raiders. It wasn't really Josh Jacobs' fault. He was still fine. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry. They just got completely flooded and game scripted and were to where nobody was useful. But I think he can go back to him. His price went down a couple $100 this week, but
Yeah.
he still had another 75% of the team backfield touches. He still leads the NFL in share of backfield touches. He still is getting RB1 usage. It was just a top-down game environment thing that happened to the Raiders last week. And remember, coming into last week, the Raiders were number one in the NFL in scoring rate per drive. Like, so if there's going to be a flop lag spot, like this is an offense that like we don't have to elevate. Like, they were already good before. So like that as all the above, right? Like you can play Devontae Adams and Derek Carr's leverage again. We're not going to build a Derek Carr lineup though. I can tell you that right now again. But you can do that. You could do that to be pivot. It looks like Darren Waller might come back and play, but maybe we'll see. So I mean, it's really kind of just focused on if you're going to do that. Like you're either play Josh Jacobs or you're just going to go Devontae Adams for leverage. And the other side I think is really great because there's another thing. Like Trevor Lawrence has been being dragged all week by everybody. He played in London. Everyone's watching the game on Sunday morning. He throws a terrible red zone interception. The Jaguars now are one of the worst offenses in the red zone. Trevor Lawrence is the worst red zone quarterback in EPA per dropback, but they have kind of the elixir here. The Raiders, the worst red zone defense in the NFL. They are 29th in EPA per dropback allowed to opposing quarterbacks. They are allowing the second highest scoring rate in the red zone. So if the Jaguars are going to be able to get over, it's against this team that's offering no resistance. The Raiders also, defensively, they are averaging 1.9 sacks plus turnovers per game. It's the fewest in the league by far. So the defense really isn't pushing anybody. And we talked about this with Andy Dalton last week. Andy Dalton, he would have really smashed if the Raiders fought back at all, but he had 17 points. The Raiders have now allowed 17 DraftKings points or more to every single quarterback they have faced this season, which includes Andy Dalton last week, and Ryan Tannehill, Davis Mills, and Russell Wilson, guys that have been terrible outside of playing the Raiders during the course of the season. So Trevor Lawrence at his price he's one of my favorite quarterbacks, I think, of the weekend, and he's direct leverage off Travis Etienne, who's going to be immensely popular for good reason. Now, out of 46 running backs that have 50 or more carries in the season, Travis Etienne now sits third in rate of runs to gain more yards than expectation. He's fourth in success rate per carry. He's sixth in rate of runs to go for 10 or more yards. He's third in EPA per run now of all those guys. Over the past 4 weeks, he has a carry, just a single carry of 30 yards, 48 yards, 49 yards, 49 yards. Like he's getting splash plays. And now he's getting a Raiders defense that's allowing 146 total yards per game to opposing running backs. The one area we haven't seen Travis Etienne really kind of pop yet is in the passing game. We know it exists from his collegiate career, and the Raiders are 31st in receiving points allowed per game to opposing running backs, something that really kind of was an anchor for Alvin Kamara stacks last week, if you listen to the show. So, I love ETN, but I do like this passing game for leverage. And when you're talking about being able to stack, there are two really cheap options to stack with Trevor Lawrence. The first one is Christian Kirk. He had another 7 targets last week. Don't be worried that he didn't get over on the Broncos. There's nobody getting over on the Broncos. The Broncos have allowed 1 touchdown to an opposing wide receiver this season, but Christian Kirk's allowed 25% of the team targets. He has 20% or more of the team targets in every game but one. He's getting a tremendous spot. The Raiders have allowed the most fantasy points per game to opposing slot receivers, where Christian Kirk plays 65% of his snaps. They're 29th in yards allowed per target, and they've allowed a league-high 5 touchdown receptions to opposing wide receivers from the slot. Now, Zay Jones does get in the slot a little bit. If you want to play the revenge game narrative, he has not nearly been as stable as a play as Christian Kirk, but he is there a little bit. The other guy, though, that I think is way too cheap on DraftKings is Evan Ingram at 3,300, especially in
Yeah.
the context of this tight end slate. 3,300 for a guy now that is 10th among all tight ends in team target share. He's 6th in routes run per team dropback. He's getting tight end one usage. The Raiders are 23rd in receptions allowed per game. They're allowing 5.1 receptions per game to opposing tight ends. And they are allowing a league high 11% touchdown rate to the position. So you can play Trevor Lawrence, Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk together for like $18K of salary combined,
nice,
which is pretty amazing in what you could do around that. So Jaguars passing game, definitely one of my favorite stacks of the weekend, especially to come off of potentially, what is going to be the more popular play on their side of the ball, Travis Etienne.
Yeah, here's how I would approach this. If you don't want to get in on the ETN chalk, but you agree that he's a fantastic play, all those good things, like I actually really like the ETN lines currently on PrizePicks. Rush yards, fantasy score, rush yards plus receiving yards. All of these look pretty low, and especially these game environments that we really like. Like these are the type of ones that I think the overs are totally fine. So I do like those quite a bit on the PrizePicks side. So if you decide to grab those, make sure you use code HOLKA, get your free $100 bet. There is a link in the description. Make sure you tell a friend about it as well. It's fun to sweat these lines with a friend. From a DFS perspective, maybe we would lean towards that fade. The Josh Jacobs stuff looks a little bit too low as well. Let's go ahead and build a team here, Reeves. Make sure you guys check out, obviously, at the worksheet as well for some more in-depth analysis on sharpfootballanalysis.com on this game. But I imagine that we're all over the Lawrence stuff, judging by what you've been talking about.
I do want to just see, because I want to see what it looks like, because in my head, I'm like, this leaves a lot of money.
Yeah, we like
if we do Lawrence double with Kirk and Evan Ingram, I mean, that is 10. Oh, that I said 18K. I'm sorry. That's like 14K.
There you go.
I mean, geez, yeah.
We don't do public math here.
Good at math, man.
Yeah. All right.
Embarrassing.
So we got that. We do have obviously a bunch of cheap defenses that are in play. We've kind of been cycling them through our teams so far this week. But is there a defense that you want to slot in for this one? Have we made a Tampa Bay?
We didn't do Tampa Bay yet in the other two videos. So let's do Tampa Bay here, and that's another 4 p.m. defense.
Since we have a little bit of salary relief here for sure. So 6,600 the rest of the way. I guess bring it back on the Raiders side. Do we just want to jam in Josh Jacobs, or do you want to try and get weird with one of these other guys?
I mean, it would inherently make sense to run Jacobs back with these guys, and he is getting that usage. He's expensive money. We have money to spend. Yep. So yeah, let's do Josh Jacobs, and we'll do it from a game stack sense. And people know if they see this, what you kind of have some money to play with here if you're building a Lawrence stack.
Josh Jacobs, we didn't mention it before, top 10 in the Sims for optimal rate. If we were to simulate the slate 10,000 times, 14.9% of them would have Josh Jacobs. So that's a pretty decent number for this game. 6,400 the rest of the way. So we got tons of space here, Reeves. Is there anything else, I guess, on the premium side that is being like a priority for you so far this week?
Yeah, I mean, we talked in another video about Aaron Jones. We've got money to spend. Let's add Aaron Jones here.
Love it. Aaron Jones, 7,400. He's going to end up being pretty chalky, but I still think that like our Lawrence stack really differentiates us. So I think that's totally fine. We got some nice anchors at running back.
We can take some chalk here.
Cool.
And then let's go with, let's add DJ Moore to the chalk fest, and that should give us a lot more money too.
Oh yeah. So we brought one back with Boyd on another video. Spoiler: do we want to get some T. Higgins involved with the mini stack here? I'm not really sure what's going to happen with ownership on T. Higgins because he's pretty expensive.
He is really expensive. I mean, he's more than Mike Evans, right under Jalen Waddle, who obviously keep playing Dolphins players.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can fit him in. We could do Boyd. We could do some 4 p.m. guys too if you want to get mix in some 4 p.m. guys here in this one.
Is there anyone you like in this at this Arizona and Seattle game?
I mean, we have Ken Walker still.
Yep.
We like him. We could do Ken Walker, and we can do Chris Godwin.
Good.
I really like Chris Godwin this week too. I had a tweet out that showed like his disparity in targets per out run against zone versus man coverage. No team plays more zone coverage than the Rams, so he's pretty interesting there. Also, if you notice, you have enough to add ETN here. We won't do it, but I will say if anyone does, like you could, because he's the same price as Ken Walker. You have the 100. You can add ETN too to this if you wanted to go super jag.
The onslaught. This is like that's the small field, I guess, tweak you could do here.